Hi, this is Doug and Brad with the Darksliders podcast.
Hey, everybody.
This week we're gonna have a normal episode. There's some pretty cool trailers that came out recently, some really crappy news about a closing of probably one of my favorite websites, and I finally got to play Final Fantasy 15 Duscae
Woo!
demo. Duscae? Duscae? I don't think we ever actually
You
figured that out.
probably should learn. You really should learn how to pronounce names of things before you start talking about them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, come on. It's like a trope of Final Fantasy that nobody knows how to pronounce anything. They're like, oh, it's a chocobo. It's like, no, it's
What's a
not.
chocobo? You mean a chocobo?
It's always been chocobo. I don't know. People say chocobo sometimes. It's really strange.
Really?
Yeah, it's I
Man, people are doing it wrong.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. So Duscae. Anyway, but Brad, just to kind of kick us off, I guess neither of us really played a lot of games this week. And
No, I played
you,
a ton of games. They just all happen to be Guitar Hero and a little bit of Xenoblade.
so I don't, unless you have something else to say new about Guitar Hero, I'm just amazed that game's actually any good.
Guitar Hero is great. Play Guitar Hero.
So there's a Guitar
Yeah.
Hero update. So what about Xenoblade? Because I think we talked about like with Xenoblade that because you were because it's a long game and we had just started last time we talked. So now I guess how long are you in it now? Like 30 hours. So what's your Xenoblade update?
I think
Hopefully
I'm
this will be like in
between.
the middle, and then the last one will be like when you're finishing it up.
I want to say between 30 and 35 hours now. I have to grind a bit, which is pissing me off, and
Ugh.
I haven't played it for more than a half hour at times. I have to grind at this point because the way it's set up is to get to every main story mission. There's certain things you have to complete.
Hmm.
Some of them are okay because a lot of them are just complete like this random side mission because there's affinity missions which are get to know your characters better. But yeah, the side characters are pretty much worthless, but you can get to know them better.
I thought you were
And
really excited about the story before. Like sometimes I get like
no, I
customers
am.
like, "Oh, the story's really cool," and then now you're saying it's like, "Oh, the side characters suck."
No. The main story is the characters themselves are just such like generic JRPG characters that there's not much to any of them.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
like, oh, get to know the this random stereotype character that's in every game. This character is the mean military general. You should go help him out.
Oh, okay. But the
Like
but the
that kind of crap.
overarching story is still
Oh
pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah. The main story is great, but I'm in this grind right now because where I'm at, you have to get to level 30 or 35. I don't remember which it is, and I'm like 2 levels away. So I kind of got to grind it out. But most of the like requirements for it are better. But I finally
Mhm.
got my Skell, which is really cool because now I get to drive around a giant robot.
Yeah, it was really weird. Like, it does the world like just completely open up? Because I think when we were playing, there's like points where like I was like trying to jump a mountain, like I clearly couldn't get up there at that point. Does it like are there a lot of spaces you can now go because of the scale, or is it just a fast travel thing?
It's more of a fast travel thing. Like you can get across the whole map now in a few minutes as opposed to like 10 or 15 minutes, and you can just
Hmm.
get to where you need to go like 3 times faster is a big thing. And it also gives you that feeling of, oh, I can actually beat the crap out of stuff that's a few levels ahead of me. Before it was if I'm level 24, okay, I could probably hit a 26 monster and be pretty fine, maybe a couple higher than that
Yeah.
if it's a smaller one. But now it's like, okay, I'm level 29. I can probably take down that 37 monster maybe if I play it right.
Oh, that's
So it
kind of
gives you,
cool.
yeah, it definitely makes you more power. The only thing I've had it for about 5 hours now, and it's a little weird because I don't feel any reason to ever get out of it. Like at this point, it's just I drive around a giant robot all the time, and my actual character just seems kind of worthless. Like, because he's
Oh,
still leveling up and he's still getting skills, but the way the skill works is you buy new components for it, so you just buy your upgrades with money. So it's like my leveling up itself doesn't even seem to matter at this point because I can just go buy new weapons for my skull and I can go buy a new skull and I'm never actually going to fight anybody with my actual character at this point.
but you still get XP and stuff like when you're in your
Yeah,
scale.
yeah. So you're still leveling your character up. It's just I'm not actually using his skills and his arts and everything just because I'm in my skull now. It's a giant robot.
I mean, there's got to be parts that they force you out of it or something, though.
Not that I've run into.
Really?
I mean, like, so your skull can blow up, and if your skull blows up, you have skull insurance, which covers it like the first couple times. And I actually had to open up the manual again to figure out how to actually work it. But like, if you get blown up, then you get kicked out, and then as soon as it blows up, it goes right back to the main city, New LA, and then you have to go find it. You have to pay for repairs. You have to do all this, and you have to go back out and get it. So it's kind of a big deal if it blows up. But
Hmm.
I don't know. It seems weird because I keep playing through this. Like I feel like at some point I need to start playing as my character again, but I have no reason to play with like the leveling up stuff or anything at this point. Again, I've only had it for about 5 hours, so maybe something comes along later. But at this point, I pretty much just go, I'm just gonna fly around in my giant robot.
Is it still holding up though? Like I know you were talking about like, oh, well, we'll see if it actually.
Yeah, I mean, again, I slowed down a little bit with it just because I absolutely hate grinding. Like, I hate doing stuff just to do stuff. And that's
Yeah, yeah.
kind of where I am with this. Like, okay, I need to grind out 2 more levels. That's, an hour and a half of just killing random monsters and stuff. So I actually took a giant swim to one of the big island continents that I haven't been to yet. So that was maybe this will make me more interested. So I swam out to the new continent, but that's about it.
Mm.
I don't know. But I think, like, once I get back into it, I looked just because when I get stuck in games, I normally look to see, like, okay, how much further do I have to go with this? Like, is it worth sticking through this part that I'm not interested with to actually get to the rest? I normally go through and just look like, okay, I'm on chapter 8. How many chapters are there? So I looked and I was like, okay. But once I get through this grind to this level, there's no more level grinding after this to unlock story missions. It's all just complete it, do a side quest, complete it, do a side quest. So it's holding up. Like, the grinding's boring, but that's every game, and I hate it more than anything on earth.
Hmm.
So yeah, but no, it holds up. It's still fun. You kind of find like little tricks to get around kind of annoying things. Like, I don't feel like I do nearly as much combat now because your Skell, it's actually Transformer, which I didn't know, which is kind of cool.
That's kind of neat.
So like you drive around like in like a little tank thing and just drive past everything, and you can pretty much outrun anything on the map. So I really feel like I'm not doing as much combat as I'm exploring at this point.
That's probably why you're stuck grinding now. I can just
Probably,
run
yeah,
through everything.
yeah. Well, I mean, because the last story mission I did, I think I did in about 10 minutes flat. Because I just like, oh yeah, at this point I've explored this whole area. Fast travel, giant robot kills it. Fast travel, giant robot fight. Fast. So yes, that might be why I'm stuck grinding a little bit more than I should be at this point. But no, it's still great. I have every intention of actually finishing it, which seems weird being 30 hours into the game and going, all right, I'm like three-quarters of the way through. Only another 10, 15 to go. It's been a long time since I beat a game this long. Granted, at this moment, I think I'm sitting at around 18 or 19 hours in Guitar Hero, so
Yeah, it is weird. Like certain games, I just feel like it's like, okay, that was a good game. I'm ready for it to end. Like when people talk about like, oh, a game, I can't believe this game's 80 hours. How awesome is that? It's like, not
not so
awesome.
much. Give me a solid 20 and we'll call it even.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm actually really curious if we do get through this because I think it is going to be like 80 hours or something like that. I don't think
Yeah,
either of
it's
us have
supposed to be
really
somewhere around there.
beaten an 80-hour game in a long time. Even Bloodborne, which I love, like I put 80 hours into it now, but I think there's like two playthroughs or something like that. So it's like not an
Yeah.
80-hour game.
Yeah, this will definitely be one of the longer ones for me.
Yeah. So I guess probably the next time we talk about Xenoblade, hopefully you'll be finishing up. I feel like we're probably gonna have one more mid intermediary. What's the word?
I don't know, but I'm going to sit here and let you try and figure it out because it's entertaining.
We'll probably have one more, and then after that, then we could finish it up. And I feel like that's what I do with like any sort of long game we're playing. Is like it's impossible. Like you have to beat the whole game before you can like fully talk about like a review. But I think it's good to give impressions along the way, like we do with our Bloodborne ones, where you hated Bloodborne, then you love Bloodborne, and now you permanently hate Bloodborne.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, I went back and listened to a random one of our old episodes. Don't do that if you just started listening to us. Like, anything before episode 20 is complete and utter shit.
No, it's not. It's not that
But
bad.
anyway, I just out of curiosity went back, and it happened to be the one where I actually liked Bloodborne. And as I was listening to myself talk, I was like, "Oh God, if you knew it was coming 2 hours from now."
Still a good game. Still a good game.
Anyway, so I'm curious about this because you started playing. You finally got a hold of the Final Fantasy demo,
I did.
and the first thing you sent me is this is like Final Fantasy Xenoblade.
Yeah, I am snoozer on NeoGaf. I
I've heard you're a big deal on NeoGaf.
But anyways, I was on NeoGaf complaining that because I'm kind of excited for Final Fantasy, but I never actually got to play the demo, the Duscae demo. And then a kind Twitter soul was like, "Oh, hey, you want to try the demo? Here's this." And I was like, "Oh, cool." So I actually got to play the Duscae demo. And my first comment about the Duscae demo is the Duscae demo is not good, but Final Fantasy 15 could probably be the best game that's ever been
It really sucks, but
made.
potential.
Well, the thing is,
Yeah, that sounds exactly like we talked about when we talked about the Order. The Order kind of sucks, but man, if they made a sequel,
yeah, yeah. Well, it's the thing is, it's like this is not a demo. I can totally understand why they had to spend so much time explaining what this Duscae demo is because it really is just like a pre-alpha of the game. It's kind of like like E3 you see vertical slices of games that are kind of like this is kind of what the game we're trying to make, but we're not quite sure with it yet. It's that. So it's kind of cool. It feels like you're playing a really really early version of Final Fantasy 15. While the demo itself isn't good, I'll get into the issues of kind of what I had with it. Just know that like any issue I have with it, it's like clear that they're going to fix it.
I mean, I feel like this is one of those in truest forms, a beta test, an alpha test. I feel like this is one of those in truest form of, no, we admit this is truly an unfinished product. Just
Yeah.
try it out, see what you think, as opposed to what I think we've come to expect from beta tests, which is a month away from a release. This is the final product. This is what it is. I mean, I feel like in more broader strokes, that's not a true beta when you're just testing out multiplayer servers. I feel like the true beta is, okay, does this actually work?
Yeah, I mean, you're actually. It feels like you're like QA testing the game,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. The thing is that like, while I do have some issues with it, like literally the ideas that are in this demo are probably like seriously some of the coolest stuff that I've ever seen in a game, and I really think that I wasn't really excited for Final Fantasy 15. I was kind of worried about the combat, and the combat is really bad in the demo. It's just straight not good. But I feel like if they fix that and they just kind of improve on all these other areas, like this could be like seriously one of the most mind blowing games ever. Um, so I guess first the things I I didn't like so much was the combat. The combat as is now in the demo was just not good at all. If you're decent at action games at all, you're just not gonna have fun with it. The best thing I say about the combat is the dodging is really fun. The dodging is like super. It's actually a lot like an action game. So like if an enemy's about to attack you and you press the dodge button at the right time, it does this cool slow mo thing where he sort of like warps out of the way. You can also do parries. You can dodge roll, and it feels very very active. Like you feel like in action games like you're always constantly dodging around, like trying to get around the enemies and stuff. So it has that, which is really nice. But the actual attacking, like you can sit there and order your weapons into one combo. So if you order like this weapon before this weapon before this weapon, you'll have a different combo as you hold down the button. But like literally as you're holding down the button, it just feels like you're letting a wind up toy go. Like you wind up the toy and just let it go. It doesn't matter that the attacks come out in different order because if you're good enough at dodging, it doesn't matter how you're attacking. So you can have like a
Huh.
hundred. So you can have like 100 different combos, but it doesn't really matter because you're either attacking or you're dodging, and that's pretty much all it was at this point. There's some kind of cool like wrinkles in it though, like you can do combo attacks with teammates, but it's clearly pretty janky right now. I don't know. I'm really still really nervous about the combat.
So like how active is it? So I mean, is it like, so you played a little bit of Xenoblade? Is it like Xenoblade where I just run up and it just starts slashing at the thing automatically?
No,
Or do
no,
you
no.
have to time attacks? Like, do you have
Yeah,
to pick out magic spells? Like, how does all that traditional Final Fantasy stuff play into it?
I would say currently it plays like a really crappy Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
Um, but it is like clearly action oriented. It seems like they did the thing I've always been worried about this game since pretty much it became Final Fantasy 15 or basically when Versus 13 got canceled. My worst fear is that they would try to do this sort of like weird middle system that's just not it's not a good action game and it's not a good turn-based game and that's kind of what it
Yeah.
is now. But I feel like if they just went one way or the other, like you're gonna have a great game. I think it's like if they I really just wish they would make it an action RPG. Like, just stop beating around the bush. Just make it a good action game that has RPG mechanics. Like, don't be afraid to do that. I think that they can probably, if they just like, if you look at the more recent trailers for it, like they clearly have a lot more than it was in the demo. The combat looks a little bit more active now. Uh, you can actually give out commands to your guys. And the demo, they just sort of like AI partners.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's like the idea of strategy is there potentially, but it's just not there in the demo currently. Besides that, though, the world is probably like one of the coolest worlds I've ever seen in a game. I'm always kind of a stickler for like I will not play a game if I don't think the world is interesting for that game. Like I'll skip on a lot of realistic games because I think that realism is kind of wasted on video games because like I don't I if I'm gonna play something like an artist can completely create, like I'd rather have something completely from their imagination.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so the worldness is really, really cool. If when I think open world games, I feel like there's like a few types of open world games. There's the realistic city open world game, which is Grand Theft Auto, Sleeping Dogs, Just
Yep.
Cause, and then you have your old English Western, your old timey Lords and Wizards and stuff. And you got Fallout. Fallout is a good example. I think Fallout is actually a really interesting world. I don't really like those games, but I think that's a really interesting world.
I was gonna say, I know you're not a Fallout fan. That's interesting that you go to that as your good example.
Yeah. No, actually, I like that universe a lot. I just don't like those games. But the thing that's cool about Final Fantasy is it falls like right in the middle between Xenoblade and Grand Theft Auto. Because when I was playing Xenoblade at your house, it's really cool because everything's super. It's all very very fantasy. Like there's not a lot to grab onto that's familiar. It's like you're
Yeah.
on a very alien planet. There's very alien creatures. Everything looks very foreign, which is really cool. I like that. But Final Fantasy 15, the whole idea, I don't know if everybody knows this, the whole point of Final Fantasy 15 before it was 15 and its versus 13, it was the tagline was fantasy based on reality. And the idea is that Final Fantasy is normally set in medieval times or it's set far in the future, and this one's going to be set during present day.
Yep.
So when you play this game, there's a lot of familiarity to it with like the present day because like okay a lot of it's centered around camping for whatever reason, so you see like a camper trailer, like just a normal camper trailer like you'd see at any other place. You see cars that it kind of has like a 1950s motif, but they just look like cars that kind of wander around. um and then you'll see there's like just trees that are just normal pine trees, and there's like butterflies that kind of fly around, so you have these very familiar things to sort of latch on to. But when but when they show like a monster in that sort of universe, it makes it like a lot more fantastical. I don't know if that makes sense. Like if everything like in Xenoblade, I feel like everything is constantly super super fantasy, so you can't really you're not really surprised when there's something new. Like it's still a little bit surprising, but like you're like, oh okay, there's gonna be more weird monsters, more weird monsters, more weird monsters.
Yeah, like it just it fits into the what they're going for with that game. It makes sense on everything. Everything kind of is just an evolution of what was before.
Yeah, and the whole point is like you're supposed to feel like you're in an alien environment. But this one, like what it does, it kind of feels like it kind of like bats you back and forth between like your expectations and what you get. So like okay, you'll see like a trailer and then you're like, oh okay, that's kind of neat. But then you like kind of go out in the woods and there'll be like a chocobo running around. Like, wait, that's kind of weird. And they'll come across like a very familiar car, but as the car kind of drives away, suddenly this airship comes in and drops soldiers off in front of you that have these like mechanical that like they're these like mechanized robots that you can like burst apart and things like that. So it's really
Yeah.
cool. I love that sort of like back and forth between the fantasy and reality, and it kind of makes you never really completely comfortable with what's going to happen. Like you really I really didn't know going into like what to expect from it. So I really really love that aspect. And sorry, I'm really blathering on this one, but like seriously, it's like one of the coolest things I've played in a long long time. Um, one of the other really
So
cool
what's your big negative other than the combat? What's your negative with this? What makes you nervous about this other than combat? Anything?
literally just the combat. Like,
Everything else you're completely 100% sold on.
yeah, like absolutely. Actually, one of the really cool aspects. See, like the thing is, like I feel like there's just so many things. Any complaint I have in my head, I feel like 1,000 people have complained about it, and
Well,
like they're
we are like a year and a half late to the
yeah,
discussion
yeah,
here.
yeah, and it's like 1,000 voices like having a single minor complaint sounds like a very large complaint, but really it's not. Um, one last thing, because I just thought the world was so interesting. One last thing I want to talk about the world that's really cool is that every monster seems to matter in this game. And what I mean by that is like when you play a Final Fantasy game, the best thing comparison is the traditional Final Fantasy games. It's like when you walk into a cave, now you're fighting a bunch of new monsters.
Yeah.
Uh, and in this one, they sort of like introduce the fact that you're going to be fighting new monsters.
How
So
so?
yeah, so for example, one of the things I thought was kind of cool is like you come upon these like sort of woolly mammoth things, and they point out they're like, oh hey, it's those weird woolly mammoth things. I don't know what they actually call them, but they make comments about it. So like when you fight them, like they're not just like having combat talk. They're talking about fighting this specific thing. Like it's kind of a big deal that you're fighting this specific thing. Um,
That's kind of cool.
yeah, no, it's really cool. There's actually a lot of banter in the game, which is really neat. But my favorite scene by far was that you get to this cave, very, very dark. How they do night in this is actually really surprising. Like night is pitch black, and all you have is like a little flashlight. It's actually kind of creepy, which is kind of neat.
Huh.
But you get to this cave, and it's actually kind of spooky, and you fight goblins in this cave that can poison you. But the thing is, like when you're fighting them, your reaction is like, "Holy shit, these things are terrifying." So when they introduce them, like the characters are afraid of them. They're not just like,
That's
yeah, so it's not just like, oh,
huh.
we're now fighting goblins in this cave. It's, oh my god, guys, watch out, we're fighting goblins in this cave, and it's like really freaking spooky. So it's kind of cool seeing the characters react to every enemy you fight.
Ooh. That's really immersive. I like that cuz that's much better than the just like a random giant bird showed up in front of you. All right, guys, let's get it. And
Yeah.
then a giant tiger looking thing shows up. This
Hmm.
might be tough, or whatever canned dialogue you hear 100 times when you're playing the damn game.
Yeah, so it's like you even kind of do like little cutscenes for them, but it's like it's all the characters going like, "Holy shit!" It's that thing that just came out. Like it's they're like reflecting your reaction to that thing that you're fighting.
That's
Um,
pretty cool. I
like
like that.
yeah, yeah, and just to finish up, I know I'll probably talk. I can talk forever about this thing because it's so damn cool. Um, they like so not Bahamut. The you're fighting a behemoth. Like the main story in the Duscae demo is that you need to go kill a behemoth, and a behemoth is like it's a tough enemy in Final Fantasy games, but it's like a normal enemy. Um, I think if anybody's played a Final Fantasy game before, it's like it's got like a large lion sort of looking thing with
Yep.
horns. Yeah, but in this game, they make that thing freaking terrifying. Like when you first meet it, like the character telling you like you need to be quiet. You have to be like you have to sneak around it. Oh my god, it's coming after us. Um, and they just make they make these things that would in other Final Fantasy games would be minor. Where like I was saying, like you kind of like okay, you're fighting new enemies. Okay, I'm fighting Behemoth. Okay, does it really matter because it's just a normal enemy? But they make these and they make everything seem like it's important.
I feel like that's kind of a new trend that Xenoblade kind of did a little bit too. And I know there's other games that have done it too, where it's more about establishing this world and how you fit into it, this sense of scale, this
Hmm.
everything's a big deal, this sense of the character actually is more attuned to what's going on as opposed to like in prior games and generations and things where it's more just you just kind of stumble across this thing and it's okay, now we're doing this. um
Hmm.
just putting the player's voice into the game a little bit more and just having that, we really feel like when the player stumbles across this, they're going to go, damn.
Yeah.
So why is the character stagnant in that? Why is there no emotion coming from the player character
Hmm.
when the proper reaction to seeing this is, holy shit, what the hell is that?
Yeah, yeah. It's really strange and it's really exciting because I feel like in a lot of games you're now in like I will say it does kind of eventually go into that like you do kind of come across random battles and stuff like that. Um, but I do just like that when you're surprised by something, the characters are surprised by something. If you're there's a really cool scene in the demo. I think it kind of exemplifies this. Your job is to go pick mushrooms by a riverside, and so like what it is you basically
Exciting.
yeah, exactly. So you follow this AI character around, and he's picking mushrooms, and then all of a sudden he's like his foot gets stuck in the mud, and he starts yelling. He's like, "Oh, come on, Noct, help me out!" But he starts yelling, and what happens? It tracks like in Xenoblade. The best example is like that Brachiosaurus looking thing.
Yeah, the big giant dinosaur thing.
Yeah, so it has something. So it has something similar in this game. So he attracts one because it starts hearing it. It's like drinking in the lake, like a few hundred yards away, and it kind of like looks over at you guys, and it just starts walking towards you guys. And all of a sudden, like the scene is like he's like, dude, help me out, help me, help me, help me. And the monster like it like brings its head down like really close to you guys, and like you can see this all this really fine detail on it and things like that. And he's like, we need to get out of here now. And then you actually have to like run away from it as it's chasing after you. But
Huh.
it is just kind of cool. Like it's just that, like I said, it's just that there is something that it makes. I've always felt like Final Fantasy was really bad at this, which was making the characters feel a part of that world outside the story.
Yeah.
But now it just feels like everything just sort of meshes together really nicely. It just feels really exciting and really cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this game. I don't know. So, pre-order, did you do it or not? You said you messaged me, done, pre-order, and then like 10 minutes later you went, maybe not. I don't know.
I,
I don't know.
I'm gonna wait till there's like a third demo supposed to. Well, I guess there's another demo coming out soon-ish. There's like rumors are probably not substantiated, but it would make sense for them to release that demo around the time of that like release date announcement.
Yeah.
So I would like to see what this game looks like after like a year and a half of improvements. So I think like right now like I am eager to buy. I just want to know more.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, if that demo makes like a positive impression on me, I'll probably pre-order this. And I know I did this with Arkham Knight. I did this with Metal Gear Solid 5, but you can't get burned 3 times, right? Um,
You could very easily.
I think regardless, like even MGS5, like I just thought the gameplay was kind of like next gen. This game feels very, very next gen. So I think just the novelty of that, like I was saying, like that placement in the world and things like, and just things I haven't seen before is enough for me to get excited about it. And people really, really should get excited about this. I think that if people don't understand that demo is like really just like a pre-alpha out, like you're being literally being a QA tester. Then I think that people are going to get the wrong impression of the game from that demo, but it has some really, really, really exciting ideas.
Ooh, speaking of really exciting ideas. So you just brought this up and it just popped in my mind. What do you think about that? So you kind of use this to say basically Square is using their audience as QA testers, right?
Yeah,
How strong of a business model do you think that is? Like, how could that work? And I mean, I guess early access games kind of do this, but
yeah.
could you essentially just put out something like this demo and say, okay, guys, let's tell us what you think. What are the things that you think are bad? What are the things that you think are wrong? What could we improve? And of course, putting out something in pre alpha, like you would have to make sure you label that thing like crazy to not get a bad impression. But is there an advantage to that?
I think I think that you can only do this if you are a huge company. And first of all, you can invest the amount of money first of all to make this demo to begin with. Like this is clearly not a part of the main game. It's clearly got
Yeah.
like systems from the game, but it's not. I mean, it's probably going to be like an area from the game, but it's just. I think that takes a lot of resources just to do to begin with. Even create like a vertical slice demo for like E3 or something like that. Like that takes a
Oh, yeah.
lot of
It's
work
so
to do.
expensive.
Um, and then you got to assume that like that a lot of these people will understand that this is like a pre-alpha thing, which I don't think a lot of people will. I think people will, I don't know. I think people do kind of understand what that means now.
See, and that's the thing is, as those words alpha and beta and early access and games in development and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
slowly comes out, is this a model that people could shift to of instead of necessarily releasing trailers, we're releasing an early alpha build of the game?
I think you could really accidentally kill a game though if you did that. Um,
See, and that's where those like pros and cons things because I could totally see a game like I don't know, I could see again like Fallout could totally benefit from something like this where or could not benefit, sorry, could totally be killed by this where you see, oh, this is literally just Fallout 3 again. Why am I, you know what I mean? Where it's a game that doesn't have as steep of an evolution as I feel like 15 has from the rest of Final Fantasy.
yeah, and I think with Fallout 4, if you think about like if they were gonna do something like this for Fallout 5, like they could only give you like a small square area Fallout, and like that's like the main point of Fallout is you can wander everywhere, but they're not gonna do that. I think like really this thing was because Square really didn't know what to do with Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
Like do we want to make it an action adventure game, which it kind of was to begin with, or do we want to just go like make it like a straight traditional JRPG, and is was that what people want? I think that's really what it was, is they really weren't sure what to do with it, and it's pretty clear, like it's really clear from the demo, like this is their starting point and they can go in many different directions with this, and they just want to get
So,
an idea of which direction to
so
go in.
yeah, so it's more they're just feeling out like if we tried something like this, how would people respond?
Yeah, and I think this would really only works with like you were saying, where it has to be like a really big change to the game, like something
Gotcha.
monumental, and that's what it is. Like this is kind of like an investors meeting, I think. Like, like are people okay with us going in these directions? What direction do we want to go in? What is the safer bet? Because I think this game would not work in a turn-based like system. It because it seems like they're really really pushing for that whole like you are a part of this world, this whole like kind of like you are living and breathing this world. It doesn't really make sense to do turn-based combat.
Where you're,
Um,
especially where you're taken out and you're moved from the scene and you've got the like little camera pan back and then the camera pan in and you're clearly not in the same place you were 2 seconds ago.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah, exactly. You don't have like your own little pocket universe to fight in anymore.
I
Um,
wonder. I wonder if that's something that's going to slowly die out because that totally kills any immersion factor. I feel like because you're going, oh, I'm no longer in that place where I was, and not necessarily kills, but it definitely doesn't give it as much strength as something like Xenoblade's combat does, where it's just like, nope, I was just running around and now all those monsters fighting me.
Yeah, I think it'll stick around for games that like want to keep that sort of like tradition alive. Like I know Bravely Default is kind of a recent
Yep.
game that's like that. I think what I could see a system kind of working is that you sort of like they do this kind of already, where you'll wander into battles and like suddenly then it'll just turn into turn based. Like it's not going to do
Yep.
that pocket universe thing. It'll just turn into turn based. But I'd say Xenoblade is kind of like that. Well,
No, not
Xenoblade's
at
a
all.
weird
Because
one.
I mean, completely run away. The thing will chase you down. You can, I mean, you can do a whole lot. You can climb up a mountain or something to get away. You have tons of options in that,
That's true.
and it's very different than just clicking the escape button.
But I'm saying like you could have a turn based system where to run away you had to run away.
True, but again, like, how would that work? Like, how do you initiate an active runaway scenario when everything else is turn based?
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that like this game is like kind of that's what this is sort of like with the Final Fantasy 15 is sort of right like the Duscae demo is sort of this nebulous thing that could go and it's asking those questions.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think it's good for tradition. I think that if you think your game benefits from doing the Pocket Universe, then you should do it. It all depends on the game, I guess. But I think I personally prefer. I love this sort of like you're in the world and then you're in a battle. I've always liked that
yeah,
since like Kingdom Hearts. I think it was like
yep.
probably one of the first games I remember that really did that was like a quote unquote JRPG that did that. So I'm just a bigger fan of that. I like that more, but I don't know. I don't think that other one should die. Dragon Quest XI looks kind of interesting. I think Dragon Quest XI is going to do that turn-based combat. You're in an open world that's kind of like Final Fantasy 15, but when you go up to an enemy, then it turns to the turn-based combat in that area. So for what
Yeah.
I've seen anyway, that's all conjecture. I have no idea really.
I know nothing about Dragon Quest, so that's all you.
hmm But that, I mean, it's a very traditional series, and I know
Yeah.
they're always kind of afraid to change it too much.
Yep.
I just want to keep talking about Final Fantasy 15.
Yep. Moving on. That's enough.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess final thoughts. Looks really cool. I think it's a really good starting point, and the Final Fantasy 15 really could end up being as good as people have in their heads. This is a bummer way to start the news. Probably my favorite. I don't know if it's my favorite website, but I've been following these guys. Me and you both, I think, have been following it since we were in high school, which is 2005, 2006 ish. Game trailer shut down.
Yeah. No good.
Yeah, did you hear how they got shut down? Like, did you hear
All,
that? Like,
I mean, I just basically heard that they got called in and said, "Hey, guess what? You're done."
that was pretty much it. Like from what I understand, the guy who runs it, Jones, was told in the morning, and that morning they were actually like shooting new videos, like release later in the week, and then he had to tell everybody in the afternoon. It's like, oh yeah, everybody's basically fired.
Yeah. Because I mean, I know they did a final live stream and they kept talking about, "Oh yeah, well, there's that episode of Final Bossman, or I don't know if it's Final Bossman or Huber Hype or whatever it
Huber
was,
hype,
but
yeah,
yeah, that we shot 3 hours ago, and that's never gonna go live because we don't exist anymore."
yeah, and it's just like, ah, man, that really hurt. Although I think when I was like thinking back, like Game Trailers has avoided death so many times.
Yeah, it wasn't because they've been acquired by like three different companies or something like that over the years, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean they were. I mean, if you think about it, like what they were independent for a while. I think when we started, like they were just game trailers, and they sort of got, and then they went through like a weird Spike period, and then
Yep,
they were no longer with Spike for a while, and then they went to Viacom, and then or the Viacom might have been the Spike era.
probably because I'm assuming Viacom owns every TV station, so I'm assuming so.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. And then I think it actually kind of started with I think the first Final Bossman. It wasn't even called the Final Bossman then, but he talked about um, the what his expectations for the PS4 reveal, like the do's and don'ts of the PS4 reveal. And I feel like it was around that time was the first time they started putting people who like cut the videos like in front of the camera.
Yeah, because a lot of it for the longest time was voiceover stuff. And I know Jones did most of the voiceover things, and it was, the 10 things for this. Or they also used to do these cool retrospective videos that were really cool, and they'd go into like super details about all these different series and the history behind them. And they just did some really interesting things that I don't feel like a lot of other places do. When you looked at the history, their reviews were always crazy detailed and way more informative than I feel like most other places are.
Yeah, I'd say
And
this.
just,
I'd say they still are like that.
yeah, well, not still.
Ouch, dude.
You talk. Hey, you use
Damn it.
present tense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ugh. Yeah, I think in the past few years they've been started putting people in front of the camera, which I was really unsure of at first. I think because you're like, all right, who are these nerds? Um,
And but see, that's what I always liked about those guys. I didn't do a ton. I know you were like a big fan of what is it, GT time and everything like that.
yeah.
I didn't get super into that, but just like Huber Hype, Final Bossman, mandatory update every now and then. They presented things in such a different way than what everybody else is doing right now that it made you go, okay, this is people who are really passionate about what they're doing. These are people who really want to do what they are. And last night after I finished their live stream, like I went back and watched their reactions to the E3 stuff from
Oh yeah,
last summer.
yeah, me too, exactly.
Like if you watch those videos and if you haven't seen them, go just Google E3 reactions, and I'm sure it's got to be one of the top things that comes up.
Yeah.
But just watching that and seeing these guys react to it, like that is like that's like me and you whenever we watch these things, we just sit there going, oh my god, no way. And it's that real reaction that I don't feel like you get from other people. And it's that really passionate reaction that I don't think necessarily comes across a lot more. It just seems like, oh yep, this is the Final Fantasy remake, yep, oh man, I can't believe it's happening. Whereas this, you've got Bossman standing on a chair and flipping it over.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's kind of cool too. It's like when I think about like reaction videos now, it's like people, oh, it feels like there's like this sort of like, oh my god, let's play Mario Kart. Yeah, I can't believe it. This is crazy. Like there's a sort of like disingenuousness to excitement, I think, in a
Yeah, it
lot of
feels very
YouTube videos.
canned.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, and it's clear, like, people like they need to make money and stuff like that. They can still, I'm sure that a lot of people who do those videos are excited for those things, but there is this sort of like overreaction to things. And these people, like, they are overreacting, but they're like that is their actual emotion. Their actual emotion is this overreaction. It doesn't feel false. It doesn't feel fake. And it does, like, yeah, like what you're saying. It kind of, I always felt like I related most of these guys because it's like they were they weren't as cynical as I think Giant Bomb is. I think a lot of the Giant Bomb guys have just been around forever, so the magic of the industry is kind of lost on them.
Yeah. And I think for most of the big sites now, if you go and watch them compared to the game trailers coverage,
Hmm.
it's more of that just, yep, that happened. Well, man, Final Fantasy remake, it'll probably suck. It won't be what we want. You know what I mean? Whereas this is like, no shit, holy, what?
Yeah, it's. I feel like they have like this sort of like. I do feel like they're like most representative of people who play games in their 20s, like a really realistic, like we can still be excited about these things, but we still have a day job. Like we
Yeah,
don't,
yes.
and I felt like their reviews always kind of, and just like their GT time and stuff, like they sort of talk that way too. Like they they really do like games, but it's clear they have other things going on in their lives, and it's like not like in high school where like your life can revolve around games or whatever. It's just games are these sort of fun things that we do, and that there's some sort of interesting artisticness to these games. There's something more to these games than just being playthings, and that they can appreciate that, but they aren't like making it seem like everything in the world begins and ends with video games. It's like no, it's just
Yeah.
that they just talked about video games like I don't know. They just said it's just, it sucks because I just felt like they were me.
Yes, very much. I mean, if you look at all the stuff that I look at, 'cause I mean, I watch some Giant Bomb stuff. I read Destructoid.
Mhm.
Kind of funny. I've slowly gotten more and more into. These are the guys that I look at and go, if say our podcast happened to explode, this would be the one.
That's
It won't.
normal.
It won't. But if it did, like this is what I would want it to be, where it's just that genuine, like this is what games are. This is what they're intended for. Yes, there's some cool artistic stuff with them. Yes, you can be cynical about them. Yes, you can be excited about them, and just have it be that, you know what, I enjoy this. I love these things. That's why I want to talk about them, which
Yeah.
I think is lost on some of the bigger sites that have been around forever because these people are like, oh yeah, no, I get to go to this preview event. Oh yeah, I get to go to E3. Like, oh yeah, it's just like every other E3. Whereas even though these guys have covered it for years and years, it always felt like when I was watching their stuff that they might as well be there for the first time.
Yeah, like they were yeah, they felt it felt like you were kind of going to these things. Like it like they were excited as you would be going to these
Yep.
E3s. And you know that I'm sure they're working like their asses off too, but um yeah, no, I just I really I love that about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still want to go to E3.
I feel like, and I also kind of, I don't know, maybe wrap this up. I feel like they were a great middle ground between kind of the much more professional, not to say they weren't professional, but the much more like professional written articles, like in like type thing you see at like IGN, where it's that much more like we are a news company.
I'd say more like joystick.
Yeah, or Joystick, yeah, which also died
Yeah,
slowly
I know.
last year. Ugh. But like there were a nice middle ground between like that type of website and what you've got now with like Let's Play and YouTube, where it's just like this kind of more immaturity versus like over maturity. There's that middle line of like, this is where I am.
Yeah. It's not an overreaction. It's not an underreaction. It's just a normal reaction to playing games.
Yeah, yep, which was awesome.
Yeah. Uh, that still hurts.
I mean, if
I
any of those guys are listening and you need a job, you can come talk to me and Doug. We can't pay you literally, can pay you literally nothing, but you can come talk to me and Doug.
I always wanted to, yeah, maybe we'll do interviews one day. I always want to try to get an interview with somebody. We'll try to figure that out one day. Um, yeah, I guess final thoughts on it. I don't know if I want them to get back together or just do something like way more awesome individually for them. You know what I mean? Like it would be
Yeah,
cool if they
like
all
is
got
it
back
better to have
together.
one collective of these guys, or is it better if Bossman's doing his own thing and Huber's doing his own thing and Brandon Jones has his own thing?
Yeah, or they're doing something else entirely. Like I don't know. It's just like it feels like they like have the perfect springboard for their careers, and it must be freaking terrifying being them right now.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Because like the whole like a lot of like people on like like Yoshida today was talking about, oh, my memories of game trailers. Like the head of PlayStation is aware of them. Like everybody in the scene where they would get jobs knows who these guys are, and they have
Well, I
like
mean,
the
and
13-year resume that anybody could have.
well, and like you said, like for the longest time, I mean, they were the ones doing like the spike coverage of E3. They were the ones
Yeah.
doing like live streams. I feel like whenever I used to watch live streams, it was always from game trailers, like especially, 5, 10 years ago. I feel like they were one of the few sites that were doing that. I mean, I remember E3, all I did was sit on game trailers and hit refresh for 4 or 5 years from like 2005 to 2010. I didn't go anywhere else. I just went to game trailers and just click and refresh until I started posting stuff.
Yeah, that was really exciting because like I remember the PS3 I almost got suspended because some people had figured out a workaround like there are certain websites that were blocked and Game Trailers was one of those websites that was blocked on our school computers. But you could circumvent that. But they were aware that that site was certainly banned in school. So I almost got suspended. Like at a library company was like, "Excuse me, how did you get on that website?" I was like, "Oh, I need to
It
watch
just
this
popped up,
PS3
I
reveal."
swear. I was Googling math trailers.
Yeah. No, it was like clearly that Killzone 2 trailer. Yeah. I don't know. I hope the best for them. It'd be cool if they all got back together and made some super cool website, but I don't know. I feel like YouTube crowd is just not them, which I
Yeah,
don't know if that's good or bad.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Kind of sucks when like a kid making stupid Minecraft videos can still get a million views and like these super well produced things by 20, 30-year-olds is like getting 10,000 reviews, 10,000 views or something like
Yeah,
that.
yep. But I built a giant penis or something in Minecraft. Come look at me.
Yeah. It's
I don't
like
watch
it's
Minecraft videos. I'm assuming that's what they are.
there's more to it than that. There is. I mean, like some people actually do try on this stuff, but it is just like weird that a single guy in his basement can get like way more views. And I can't have like feel like I have no like interest or relation to whatever that thing is that he's doing. So I guess getting into news. Oh man, we're actually
This
getting
might
into
be our most rambly podcast ever.
probably. These are always I always like these ones, but when I'm editing them, I was like, oh, we should probably cut out that 5 minutes, cut out this little bit. This could be horrible. I have no idea.
And that part will all be cut out. So great to
Yeah.
know that.
No, well. So moving on to news, there's some pretty cool trailers. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, Mirror's Edge trailer came out. I think it's just called what's it called? Oh
Cataclysm.
yeah, Mirror's Edge Cataclysm, and it's like it's introducing Faith or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but it's basically a story trailer for Mirror's Edge. Have you played Mirror's Edge? I assume.
Yes, sir.
And how do you feel about the trailer? Because I have a very strong opinion about this trailer.
Um, yeah. I don't have any real opinions on it. I don't know. As I was watching, I was trying to go, what the hell is the story of Mirror's Edge 1?
Actually, no, that's exactly why I love this trailer because they're like the story in Mirror's Edge 1 is just not good at all. It's clear that they had artistic vision, like a musical vision for the game, and a gameplay vision for the game, and they just had to figure out a story that kind of fit those, and just
Yeah.
didn't work out because it had some like really crappy flash animations in between them, and it's like the only person you meet is like the person who betrays you. It's pretty garbagey. So I like that this one actually has a story. Like I was like, oh hey, cool, they're like doing something with a story. I don't even care what it is. It's just like, oh, they're actually doing a story. That's kind of neat.
They're pretending it exists.
Yeah.
My only thought with it is it seemed very like actiony heavy, which wasn't my favorite part of Mirror's Edge. It seemed like they tried to force the action into this one and say, look at all the explosions and look at all the crazy stuff that's happening. Whereas I feel like the marketing for the first Mirror Edge was just run across the city.
Yeah, but Mirror's Edge, I mean, you play like Mirror's Edge one actually had some like pretty intense chase scenes like later on in the game.
But
Like when you
again, like this didn't feel like chase scenes. It just felt like those very big epic scene moments where it's like this is the scene where the boat falls off the waterfall and those very,
oh okay yeah
that kind of stuff. That's what I felt like from this, not just like and there's going to be this crazy chase where you're going to jump across 18 buildings like you got in Mirror's Edge 1.
yeah but I think this is just like trying to reintroduce just it's just like this is the world of Mirror's Edge, and I was like, okay, I mean, I guess it just kind of feels like I don't really I think that any story is already an improvement on the first story.
For sure.
um
Yes, for sure.
yeah, so I guess the thing that I think both of us are kind of excited about, but we're like Mirror's Edge fans, so we're just more excited to see what the game looks like as opposed to the story trailer. um I don't know. I thought it looked really cool. There's some kind of like neat stuff in it. I like the part where she puts in the contact lens, and all of a sudden you see like this like crazy like sort of heads up display. I was like, oh,
Oh yeah.
that's kind of a cool way to explain the heads up display. It's like, oh, she's wearing contacts or something like that. I always love that sort of in universe stuff. Everything I hear about this game actually sounds super cool.
This is one of those games that I like because the more I hear about it, the more excited I get. I feel like a lot of games have that epic, first introduction trailer, and then as it goes, I'm just like, okay, okay, yep, that's not quite as cool as I thought it was going to be. Yep. This is one of the few ones where I saw it and was like, okay, Mirror's Edge 2, I can get behind that. And then the more I see of it, the more I'm going like, oh shit, what? Yes, 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 do more of that.
I think it's because you start with sort of like middling expectations, like Mirror's Edge 2. I'm not. That sounds interesting. So like,
Yeah,
it's not like, oh my god, it's a new Final Fantasy. Oh my god, it's a new Fallout. It's like you had this sort of like, I,
huh,
but yeah, sell this to me, man. I'm kind of on board, but you gotta sell it to me. So it
yeah,
does feel like it's kind of like rationing up, as opposed to Final Fantasy, where it's just like, oh my god, just stop giving us information, just give us trailers or something.
give me the damn game. That's all I want at
Yeah,
this point.
yeah. Another big trailer that came out was the Doom trailer. Doom looks cool. That's I don't.
Doom looks real cool. I don't really have much to say because I mean the trailer is basically just like exactly what you wanted, where it's just we're shooting shit up and it's crazy looking.
Yeah, I've talked about this podcast before. Like, I love games like Painkiller and Serious Sam and the original Doom, and it's like this looks like one of those games where it's just like a lot of shit on screen. You're doing a lot of shooting, a lot of running backwards. Although this one, I think actually one of the things they said they didn't want to do was run backwards.
Yeah, they said I think they initially said that the goal with this was to make sure you were always running forward, so you never had that moment of like, oh man, I gotta slow down and do this. It's just no, you go full throttle the whole time.
Yeah, which is kind of cool because if you play Serious Sam is like you're literally running backwards like the entire
Yeah, you run
game.
10 steps forward, 8 steps back, 10 steps forwards, 8 steps.
Yeah, because like it's just like suddenly there's like a wave, so it's actually kind of cool. I like that idea. I hope they pull it off. Like you see a wave of enemies. I think they sort of did that. Remember that? What was that Warhammer game you were talking about like a few episodes
Oh,
ago?
Space Marine.
Yeah, where they kind of encouraged you like in order to get health, like you had to get into the fray.
Yep.
So I'm hoping they kind of have some sort of mechanic that encourages you to like get into the fray as opposed to like kind of like sit back, Serious Sam it, and then just kind of like run back as far as you can and just start shooting. Looks cool. All the Doom enemies look like Doom enemies. I don't know. It looks like a good mix of I think the classic Doom and Doom 3, because I think Doom 3 actually had a lot of cool stuff in it that people sort of discount. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I think it's the proper evolution of Doom. It's what we want Doom to be.
yeah. I think this is kind of what people thought Doom 3 was going to be.
Yes, and Doom 3 very much was not this.
No, it was not. Doom 3
Not
was a
that it
big.
was bad. It was a good game, but just not this.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was not a Doom gameplay game. It was like let's take Doom in a new direction. It was an interesting direction. But it wasn't. But so this is like I like that's kind of like melding the two.
Yeah.
Very exciting stuff. Real quick story: Binding of Isaac. Apple has denied Binding of Isaac to come out on the Apple Store because of child abuse, of display of child abuse, and this doesn't shock me at all, and I kind of agreed.
Dude, that game's so weird. I there's a lot of reasons why I feel like that game could be somebody could pick that up and go, yeah, that's not something that's okay.
Yeah, that's a Binding of Isaac is such a strange game because I really love the gameplay, but I really didn't like the aesthetic, and it's got some really, really dark stuff in it. Although,
Oh
and
yeah,
but like the only reason people are saying like, oh well, it's like all this other garbage gets on Apple. It's like, well, yeah, I guess if you want to, but you're like lumping in with it saying yes, this game has like some pretty controversial shit in it.
for sure.
I don't know. Maybe they'll change it. I don't know. Good game, but yeah, man, that's got some crazy shit in it. Final story, really quick one. Onimusha discussions are happening, which is at a very high level, I think was put in quotes.
Dude, I don't even know if you saw this. It was literally like, I'm still finishing up Street Fighter V, but we know a lot of our fan favorite franchises would do really well. So I have talked with some other people who made Onimusha about Onimusha. And that's as far as we've got. That's literally the extent of that story.
Yeah,
but 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 Onimusha and new Onimusha and somebody inside a Capcom building thinks that's a good idea, and that's all I need.
yeah. It's actually kind of funny. It actually reminds me of a lot of the Resident Evil 2 remake
Yes.
discussions. Like, oh yeah, we're talking about it. Oh wait, here's the and like, oh, I'm about to go in the meeting. We're going to talk about Resident Evil 2 remake. I was like, all right, I guess this is what Capcom's doing now.
Yeah,
Uh,
it kind of felt like that. It almost felt like, I can't even think of a good example, but that if I throw this out there, enough people will get pumped that the right people will hear about it and go, "Oh, fine, shut up, we'll make it."
yeah, I think they're
Deadpool. Deadpool comes out this week. That's what Deadpool did, where it's just like, if we just somebody snuck out that test footage and everybody went, "Holy shit, make this movie." And then it was like, "Okay, we have to now." And I
yeah.
feel like that's kind of what's going on with this, where it's like, we might make Onimusha, and everybody's going like, what? Yes. Why are you not doing that already? Yes. And somebody's going to go, oh shit, fine. Put 10 guys on it. Go have fun.
But I don't think nearly enough people are going to be as excited about Onimusha as they were about Resident Evil 2 remake. You know what I mean? Like, I
I
think
don't
they're
know.
gonna wait till Resident Evil 2 remake comes out, see how that does. Because that was like a thing, like born, like you're saying before, like born on like fan reactions, going, "Oh my god, you gotta make it!" Ah.
But I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like there's going to be enough. And I feel like Capcom's big enough that it could handle two projects like this. And I mean, Onimusha is by no means like a niche franchise. I mean, the first one sold, I think, wasn't it like one of the first PS2 games to hit 1 million copies or something like that?
Yeah,
I
it
know
was
it was.
definitely one of the first big PS2 games for
I mean,
sure.
it was huge, and it had what? There were four of them, and then like some weird like battle game or
Yeah,
something,
like
like
Smash
fighting.
Brothers rip-off thing. Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, this was a big franchise on PS2. So it's not like you're going like, oh yeah, let's bring back whatever tiny little Capcom game you had 20 years ago. It's no, this was a franchise.
yeah. I think they're really hesitant too, just because like they kind of killed it with Onimusha 4 and that Blade Warriors game, which sold like absolutely nothing.
Well, it
Uh,
looked like shit. Of course it did.
yeah, it was kind of weird. It's like, oh, you love all your, that horror samurai game. How are we making like Smash Brothers? Like, no.
Well, that's like, yeah, basically they did Operation Raccoon City, but for only Musha, and but instead of
Yeah,
letting Operation Raccoon City kill Resident Evil, they kept going.
I think yeah. Well, yeah. Well, Resident Evil is like a strong enough franchise where something like that wouldn't kill it. While Onimusha was like, kind of already on a little rocky, and then it just got hit with a
Yeah,
fatal blow. I think the only way this game would get made would be the same way they're doing Street Fighter V, is that they did an exclusive deal with Sony, which I can see them doing.
for sure.
Um,
Because I don't know, did that? No, that did come out for Xbox. That was on Xbox. Now that I think about it.
which
So
what are you thinking about?
I was trying to figure out if Onimusha was a PlayStation exclusive at any point, but it was always on both.
Yeah. I don't think it's. I can't imagine it sold as well on Xbox. I don't think all the games came on Xbox. I don't think Onimusha 3 came on Xbox.
Yeah, I think it
Uh,
was like half the series or something. But
mhm.
I mean, it would be one that I feel like would fit in with what Sony's trying to do, and I could totally see them doing a Street Fighter V deal with it.
Yeah. Or although I'm thinking like now they have Kojima. Like, sorry, Capcom.
Yeah, we don't give a shit about anything other than what Kojima's doing right now because we know what that is, and that's gonna kill everyone.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they actually have this like really nice plan set up uh for like getting Capcom games from now on. And then Kojima just kind of comes out of the woodwork like, I need a few $1 million. Like, oh, sorry.
No more passion projects. Kojima, take all of the money, make us Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, really interesting. I guess we didn't talk about this on our podcast before. Do we talk about Kojima going around with Mark Cerny?
No, we didn't. I don't think. I feel like when Kojima announced all this stuff and Kojima Productions came out, I think that was when we kind of took that like 2.5, 3 week break.
Oh, okay,
So I don't
yeah,
even know if we've talked about Kojima at all since like the Game Awards. I feel like that was the last time we talked about him.
yeah. We might, yeah. I want to talk specifically about that sort of like whirlwind tour. Did you follow that at all? Like that
I
like
just
10-day trip?
I saw bits and pieces of it where he just visited like every major Sony thing ever.
Yeah, like what it was like they were giving him tech presentations at every single Sony studio. So like he he got to see all the he basically got to like see every Sony game. So he got to see like Sony Benz. He got to stay at Sucker Punch. He got to go to Naughty Dog. I think what they were doing was he was like figuring out what engine he wanted to use because they were giving tech presentations.
Yeah,
Uh,
just to
I,
kind of get a sense of where can I go? What's my starting point? What engine am I going to use? Where can I take this?
yeah, which sucks because like he just lost the Fox engine, which is like crazy awesome. That was the Metal Gear Solid 5 engine, which is like
Yeah,
60 FPS open world. Sure, why not? Um, so yeah, I'm really curious like what engine he's gonna pick. Like I don't. There's not like, oh, I hope he picks the Naughty Dog engine. It's like I have no idea like what he's looking for when he's looking at all these different engines and stuff. But
or even
it,
what he's doing. I mean,
that's true. I think that the only hint we have, I think that they said the Kojima Productions logo is a character.
really,
Yeah. So like
huh?
they are that is some sort of hint to what the game is. Um,
Interesting.
so like Space Xenogear, not Xenogears, Space Zone of the Enders, skeleton fighting people. Sounds kind of neat.
Yeah, I'm all about all of those things.
Yeah. I really hope they bring back those that like organic suit idea from Zone of the Enders 3 that got canceled.
I was gonna say, there's only two of those.
Yeah, no, yeah, the one that got canceled was like set in ancient Egypt and all and like the mech suits were actually like organic things that were like animals.
Huh?
Yeah, it was gonna be awesome, and then they cancel it.
Beast Wars.
So hopefully they steal some of those ideas from that cancel game. So I guess that's about do it for our episode. That was a really rambly episode. I hope that
Yeah.
turned out okay.
Well, too late now.
Yep. So we are the Darksliders podcast. You can follow us at Darksliders_pod on Twitter. Whatever you listen to us, you can always follow us on. If you make any comments, just send them our way. We also have a WordPress site. That's actually probably good. That's a good way to get a look like at all our archive stuff. Brad actually did a few stuff that he wrote about. That's actually pretty interesting to read. So check out our WordPress site. What's the address for that?
Uh, well, if I just ramble long enough, I can pull up an internet browser and I can type it in, and it's darksliderspodcast.wordpress.com.
There, go there. We got some cool stuff in there. Hopefully, maybe we'll get a new website one of these days and actually, do some. We're talking about doing some interesting things. So anyway, that was the Dark Sliders podcast. We'll see you guys next week, hopefully.
That's how that works, yup.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Bye.